right now. Record. Okay, Facebook on lock here. Share on page manage. Building Bellingham. This whole thing is, my whole life is through Zoom now. It's
I know, it's so crazy.
It's a little trippy. Yeah. All right. Should be showing up. There we go. And then let's see, building Bellingham. Go. And we are going to do the Whatcom County. I'm not a part of that. Okay, cool. All right, ready to roll?
Yeah.
And just get ready to mute the Facebook live here. All right, we are live on Facebook. All right, now let's see, happening now, watch party, starting a watch party, boom. All right.
Okay. Let's see.
All right. You have the option to just share it.
Wow.
All right. Watch party rolling. So if you go to, do you see the live video going right now?
I don't. I'm on the page too.
Try refreshing it.
Okay. There we go. Okay. So then I press start.
Press start and we're good.
Make sure it's muted. Okay.
Good to go?
I think
so. If you go to, now?
I don't. I'm on the page.
There we go. All right. No feedback?
Okay. So then I press start.
Press start. You see the volume button?
I did, but then I can't hear you on this. It's okay. You can. It's
okay. All good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome Vija to the Building Bellingham Pivot Series. I'm coming at you from this beautiful beach in Bellingham, if you can't tell where I am. And Vija, you're in Kirkland right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today. Thank
you. It's not as beautiful here as on your beach.
I know. I'm somewhere in, well, actually, I don't want to tell anybody where I am because I'm hiding. I'm hiding in the desert island here. But anyhow, I appreciate you joining me today in the Building Bellingham Pivot Series. And as we've talked a little bit about, I know you've been talking with Ben Kinney about a lot, is this whole concept of pivoting, shifting, how this is really getting us to take a step back and really think about how we want to change our lives and our businesses and our worlds. Tell me a little bit more about you personally, professionally. How has this impacted your life, and what sort of pivots have you made, well, recently, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Leo, thank you for having me on as a guest. There's an esteemed list of people, so it's a big honor to be here. And secondly, everybody's pivoting right now. I think pivot and shift are maybe two big words that are being used, rightly so. My name's Vija Williams. Like Leo said, I run our 8 Keller Williams franchises, real estate brokerage franchises here in Western Washington. And then I'm involved as well in the leadership team for our mortgage, title, and escrow companies. So leadership is my world. I lead the leaders. I lead our team leaders who lead our offices and help lead other leaders in our offices. So I lead leaders, I lead agents every day, all day. And the way I think I would describe leadership right now, and I've been saying this a lot lately, is that we're really undergoing what I call the Stockdale paradox. And the Stockdale paradox was first coined by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. And he tells the story of James Stockdale, who some of you who are of a certain age, like me, remember he was a vice presidential candidate, but he was a war in Vietnam for 7 or 8 years, and he led the leaders there. And many, many prisoners died. It was a really, really tough slog. I cannot imagine being a prisoner of war for like 7.5 years and surviving and thriving. Jim Collins interviewed him, and he said, how'd you do it? And I'm going to read this to you because it's so good. I've been telling everybody this story lately because I think this is leadership right now. And Stockdale replied, I never lost faith in the end of the story.
Love that.
I never doubted. Yeah, I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect, I wouldn't trade. So then Jim Collins went on to ask him who didn't make it, who died. And without even hesitation, Stockdale said, oh, the optimists, because this is what happened. They would say, we're going to be out by Christmas. And then Christmas would come and Christmas would go and they wouldn't get out. And they're like, well, that's okay. We're going to be out by Easter. Easter would come and Easter would go. And then they go, okay, we're really going to get out by this Christmas. Christmas would come, Christmas would go. And they died of a broken heart. So the Stockdale paradox, I want to keep wanting to say paragraph. The Stockdale paradox is, how do you as a leader brace your people for a very hard road ahead? How do you stay realistic about how hard that road's going to be while also maintaining faith and hope that it's going to turn out okay? Mistake that feeling of we're going to make it and we're going to have faith in this, that we're going to have hope that we're going to come out well in the end. You can never mix that up with not preparing your people for the brutal reality that lays ahead. You have to do both. So it's a paradox, isn't it? If you're too hopeful and too optimistic, then you don't steel them up and you don't give them the tools and the equipment they need to go through the tough times. But if you're too tough and you don't have any hope or optimism, everyone's going to go curl in a fetal position on their couch and stay home and not do any work, right? So the Stockdale paradox is what leadership is today. It's a combination of steeling our people up and preparing them for the tough road ahead, while also letting them know, showing and telling them that it's going to be okay and we're going to prevail in the end. And it is really exciting what this is forcing us to build.
I love that. So it's amazing because I'm sure you've seen people in both worlds where there's complete optimism and you're like, wow, I don't know how much you're going to get by maybe on luck, but not necessarily on the reality of what the situation is. And then you have the other people that are just pushing people to the ground. You're saying you have to find a healthy balance. How does one find a healthy balance? Not on your level, obviously when you're leading leaders, you're showing people how to have this mindset, but then for the person that's running a smaller business, how do they, maybe they have 1 or 2 employees. How do they do that? Or maybe it's just them that is the sole prop and they do all of the other things. How do you train that?
Yeah, first of all, we're all leaders because we all lead ourselves. And so anytime, we read a book on leadership or we see a podcast or a webinar or whatever, it's always good lessons. There's always good lessons in there because we're leading ourselves first. It always starts with ourselves, right? So there's a couple things we can do as leaders. And if you don't have anybody that works for you or with you, you lead your families, you lead your significant other, you lead your clients, you lead yourself. And I think that there's value in any lesson. So I'm happy to share a couple things, Leo, that I have learned and discovered even more so over the last, 6 weeks of this 5 weeks that have really helped me, if that works for you.
Absolutely. Please share. Yeah.
Cool. Well, the first one is that I think that in a world right now where everything is inconsistent and disruptive, and we have information flying at us, and we have no control, we need to create routine and consistency and certainty during this time. So that the best thing that we can do, either as leaders or for ourselves, is to establish a routine. It might look a little different than your previous routine, primarily because you're at home, most likely, but you still have to maintain regularity. You have to wake up, take your shower, put on your makeup if you're a woman, or I shouldn't say that, anyone can put gender fluidity, but do what Yeah, your hair looks great. Your makeup looks great. But do what you have to do to get ready in the morning. It doesn't matter where you are, you know, and keep that consistency. As leaders, I think it's really important that we help put bumpers on. I always think of the bumpers on those bowling lanes, you know, we just keep bumpers on. So for us, what we've always done is we had morning team leader calls every morning. That's what we call our stand-up call. From 8:30 to 8:45, we kind of just go over, okay, what's everyone focused on today? We sometimes do scripts and best practices. What we've instigated during COVID is we have a team leader Zoom huddle from 4:30 to 5. And that's a really important time where we kind of wrap up our day. We talk about conversations, what worked, what didn't, what the vibe is. You know, we have a really, really good wind down of our day. And it's an anchor. Those are two anchors. We have an 8:30 anchor and then a 4:30 to 5 anchor, right? And most of my team leaders work really hard, and they're actually not done at 5, but they're winding up their day at that point, right? So predictability, consistency, and certainty during a very unpredictable time is one of my first lessons. I think just learning how important that was.
So this is not a snow day. I've heard you say this. I've heard Ben say this,
And yeah,
and I love that metaphor there of it. People treating it like a snow day. This is a time, not necessarily that we're needing to buckle down in so many different ways, but we need to keep that. Like, I get up and I shave, believe it or not, you know, but I do get up and I shave, and I treat it like I'm treating a normal day. I go to my office. I say, you know, have a good day, honey. I'm going to the office. I walk down the hallway. But it's still treating it like it's not, nothing's changed. If you treat it like something's changed, you're saying that's when you can kind of slip away from those bumpers, right?
yeah, exactly. And that kind of me into my second point, Leo. You said it really well. Is you have to be, as a leader, you have to be very clear and concise in your directives. Meaning, you have to be very clear about what the priorities are, because sometimes there's a reshuffling of priorities during these times. So every single day, in some shape or form right now, as leaders, we need to give a clear, concise directive that we're repeating often to our people. What are our expectations of them during this time? What is the definition of success during this time? And so that hasn't changed, but the message has changed. Because if we're not constantly pivoting and changing tactics and doing what works right now, then we're not going to survive. We just won't survive right now. So you know, for us, for the team leaders, I've had to, you know, we talk about growth all the time. We talk about, what is the end of this going to be the beginning of for us? That's one of my favorite focusing questions that Ben Kinney created. I say that to myself every day, constantly throughout the day. What is the end of this going to be the beginning of for us? I am so excited about what this is really forcing us to build. So I'm constantly saying that to my team leaders. That means growth. That means even through this, we figure out a way to make growth happen. And it's going to look different than it looked a few months ago, but it's a clear, concise directive that growth is still on our priority list. Health and safety is number one right now for everybody. And then, you know, growth. And then that's really tied with, you know, making sure that our agents are supported right now. We are pouring into our agents more than we ever have, to make sure that they are feeling loved on, because we do love them, that we can provide a really good environment for them to do business right now. We can provide them tech and training and all the things that they need, all the resources they need to do business right now, right? So
love that. So because your role with Ben Kinney Companies, outside of, you know, your leadership for the mortgage title and escrow, is director of growth. So interesting, when there's a time of where the economy is like contracting, and you're in a position where it's called director of growth. Now you're the director of support and maintenance and education, and like your job title is completely, it's the same, but it's almost like your role's changed, right? What's that been like for you, to focus on like what we have here versus necessarily outward as much as you were before?
Yeah, so we still very much believe in growth. It just, we're filling the funnel right now.
Yeah.
So for the agents that are watching this, if any real estate agents, really any industry watching this, if you can't necessarily convert right now today, what you can do is fill your funnel so that when this starts winding down and we start going back to whatever our new normal is going to look like, I shouldn't say going to whatever our new normal is going to look like, you've now got a pipeline of that you can have and you can do. And so that's kind of what we're focused on. I have to go back a little bit because what we're really focused on is having a whole bunch of conversations that are really filled with integrity so that we're providing our entire agent community with massive value. That's really what we talk about every day. How can we provide our agents and agents that don't have, we think, the gift and the blessing of being with us? How can we provide them the messaging they need? Because we're finding more and more that agents not in our ecosystem are not getting all of the weekly trainings that we're providing, for instance. And so, so we're really coming at this trying to provide value to the real estate community, first and foremost. And that helps with growth because people realize they want to be with the company that's doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've taken this from just a focus on KW, Ben Kinney Companies, and said, you know what, we're gonna focus on us, but also there's a way that you can do that in a collaborative way to provide value to the entire industry. And that's huge because this industry, and you've been doing this longer than I have, but in your experience, wouldn't you say that this industry is not necessarily the most collaborative as a whole? I mean, there's a lot of different pockets of collaboration, but as an industry as a whole, for the longest time, it hasn't been as collaborative as it should be.
I think it's pretty collaborative, actually. I think probably more than some, it is. I think that Keller Williams is a little unique in our culture. We are over the top collaborative, right? We've just always invited outside any agent affiliation to come to almost any of our stuff. So I think that we're probably an extreme with that, but I think there's a lot of agents actually who share and collaborate in real estate. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree, and maybe that's the world that I'm living in and I'm growing in. So I agree with you, but at the same time, I'm not quite sure what it's like outside of that collaboration. So tell me a little bit more for you personally, because now because a lot of your job is in your career is going places and being places. And obviously Zoom helps a lot with that communication and other, FaceTime and text and call and whatnot. But what has that been like for you personally, being at home with family? Kids are all back home now. What has that been like for you as a professional, trying to continue forward on this huge growth trajectory and this loving on the agents and doing your job, but at the same time being home?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, and I'm no different than anyone here. My freshman from college, we flew him home just in the nick of time. We abandoned his dorm room. So we've got, whatever he had with him, we're trying to find someone to pack it up in Texas for us. We can't even fly to Texas right now without being in quarantine for 14 days. So that's fun. But it's interesting. My schedule hasn't really changed. Isn't that funny? The only difference is that I'm just here. I still have my different market days. I'm still doing, different office meetings. I'm doing, I'm on Zoom all day, every day, or on the phone. And so the schedule hasn't looked that different. What I do isn't that different. That what's different is how I do it. And I think that is exciting. I think that there's some aspects of this that, I was running a little ragged, if I'm being honest moment. I live in Kirkland, and we have Market Center, Olympia to Bellingham, and the miles I've been putting on my car and the amount of time I've just driven, Bellingham one day, Olympia the next day, back to Seattle the next day, and then Tacoma the next day. It was insane. And I'm excited to go visit all the market centers again and see everybody face to face. But I am very grateful that hopefully some of what I can do can migrate to Zoom now. That would be really great for my family and for me to a certain extent. So some of it's really good. Silver lining.
So the silver lining you're seeing is that it's kind of like allowing you to take a breather. Almost, it's different, because I agree with you. When you're driving everywhere, that's a lot, a big part of your day. And
there's a time to do that, right? Like we all now, I think more than ever, understand that you need to be eyeball to eyeball. Sometimes it's just, that's okay, right? I just don't know now. I think one of the things that might change in my roles, I don't know that I need to do that as often, which is a weight off.
Mm-hmm. We think we need to be physically, I agree with you on the eyeball to eyeball. I like meeting in person, but then, and Ben's always been an advocate for me to say, which one of these meetings can you do via Zoom, or what can you do a group call on?
He always has.
Consolidate things so you can do more with your time, or take more time off, whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So it sounds like there's been some silver linings. What other silver linings for you, personally and professionally, have you found in the chaos?
I mean, I am weird because, and I'm always hesitant saying this, I take this very seriously. I care deeply for all of the afflicted with COVID, and I have now up to 7 friends that have had it, and all of them are okay now, but it's hit me personally. Close friends of mine have been sick. With that said, I am very positive and enthusiastic and encouraged, and like I am doing awesome, because to me this is a great reset, and the whole world had to do it, and so it's just forcing us to cut expenses that we probably didn't need. It's so weird, by the way, when you can cut 30 to 50% of expenses and go, wait, why did I have that? Mm-hmm. I just find it amazing that it's not as hard as we thought it was, right? The other thing that's great is it's really mobilized the team. And for me, when I say team, it's really me and my team leaders is who I'm visualizing. It's really mobilized us. We are tight. We are focused. We all have the same priorities. We're leaning on each other. Team. It's been really wonderful for our agents in the market centers. I have established so many newer, deeper relationships you're one of them, Leo, with agents in our market centers that I didn't maybe know as well at first. And this has just afforded an opportunity to get deeper in relationship. And I know that a lot of those will stay through the long haul. There's a lot of silver linings. I looked around my dinner table on Sunday night. I said, you know what, you guys, we might joke around and complain. We're going to look back on this time. We will never in our lives have this much family time together. And I am blessed by it. I really am. We can joke about quarantine. We can need a break from each other, but it's a blessing. I have a freshman in college who should be in Austin, Texas right now, and we get him. We get him stuck in the house. My teenage son, he's stuck in the house with us, and I sort of love it. So There's a lot of it. Silver lining.
I love that. And it's interesting because what you're saying is this is kind of like forcing us to look at our expenses, because we've been in this world of abundance, and we should. It's not to say that we shouldn't stay in that world of abundance, but we're living in a place where the economy, up until this recent shift, was really good, and real estate agents are making a lot of money. Business owners are making a lot of money, and we're out spending a lot of money. And I love what you and Ben talk about, and the profit first mentality of okay, time to redline. And so tell me a little bit more about how you've coached people to, as we call it, redline our expenses, and how you've done it personally, and how that's impacted your life now, and how it's going to impact your life once we come out of this and there's a lot of opportunity again.
Yeah. So 3 highlighters, pink, green, and yellow. And basically you go through, you print out whatever your expenses are, and then you need to red highlight, pink highlight the ones that you're just going to cut. Mm-hmm. And then you have to put in green the ones that you need to keep. I mean, you have to keep your mortgage or your rent. You have to keep your, most of us, our cell phone, your gas in your car, right? And then the yellows are you're not sure's, So a lot of the yellows I'm hearing from our people are cleaning people and maybe yard maintenance people. We care about them and their livelihood too. And so there's this obligation to try to keep paying them if they're used to that income. But we are also trying to cut, that's kind of a yellow, that's a tougher category, right? But for many of us in the world right now, we're operating on less income. I know that, production bonuses that maybe some people used to have aren't here for a while, and different aspects of our, income have changed. And so all of us personally and professionally probably need to go through and do the red, yellow, green line. I've canceled almost everything in our house. Like we're whittling down. I think we're down to, I say everything, like 30 to 40% reduction in expenses. And it honestly feels great. I mean, just eating out alone, we get one meal a week that we choose to do takeout, and we all as a family vote on it. It has to be a local restaurant, locally owned. This week we're going to go, if you're in Bellevue or Seattle, we just learned that Sea Star is doing family meals for 4 of like filet mignons, like $50. Wow. And you have to order it by Thursday. Yeah. And then you pick it up. You have a window time to pick it up Saturday. So we're going to do fancy Sea Star, which we're really excited about. But, we would just do takeout all the time before this. We spent so much money.
Yep. Yeah. Vija, did you know that I got an award for, I've forgotten, Taylor Beal, who's on this call probably, she nominated me for the award that when Viking Food or Uber Eats showed up, it was like 99% likely to be me.
No way.
So that was my spoof award for this last year. So I totally understand that.
Really?
I've been scolded by, and rightly so, by my wife, by Chris, who does all of our finance, even by our teammates that make fun of me for just eating at the office. So I can totally appreciate that. So you've taken that as an opportunity to vote, have it be a family event, and supporting a local business, which is amazing. And that's pretty awesome. So for you, so you've redlined a lot of items, you've 30 to 40%, which is huge. Mm-hmm. And we start realizing in those moments, like, do we need to do that going forward, even when we're in a more prosperous time, right?
Well, yes, we do. Ladies, we need our hair dyed. This is not a pretty look. I don't recommend it. I have no eyelashes. My eyebrows need to be shaped. Look at my nails. So I'll be honest, a lot of the cuts are like, I couldn't do them anyway, and I'm very sad about it. So I'm not going to lie.
Understood. Some of them make you sad, right? Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
So I know we laugh about a crystal ball, right? And I don't expect you to have that, but you're very tied into what's going on in the real estate world and how that relates to the economy. What are you seeing right now for the realtors that are watching, for people that are, in a place where they need to sell or need to buy? Like what is the economy like? What is the real estate world like? What are you seeing as a trend? And how do you see that on the other end? What do you see the rebound being like, if there is one?
Yeah, so happy to talk about that. First of all, I'll preface my answer by saying that I keep up with a lot of data. I track data multiple times a week in all of our submarkets that we work in, as well as all MLS data, and also national and international data. And so I may not be an economist or an expert, but it's part of my role to have to keep up with that, right? Running eight market center franchises, that's about 12 physical offices, 1,300 agents, and a whole bunch of staff and leadership. And the second thing I wanted to add is what's cool is that Ben and I both just happen, he reads more than I do.
Read a lot.
He allocates himself more time, but I read a lot. I read articles. I'm probably at 2 to 3 articles a day. He's probably at 10 a day. I'm at about 2 to 3 articles a day. Some of them are long form about the economy. Some of them are really hard through, but that's now accumulated over the last 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. So I feel pretty in tune to kind of understanding what I think is going to come down the pike, although none of us have a crystal ball, but I'm happy to share. On my webinar tomorrow, I'm going to share a chart from China. So obviously China was first in, first out. We also want to look at Italy and UK, and then we also want to look at us, Washington State, California, and New York. So these are really good markets if you're tracking, to kind of track, because we're probably all the first in, first out, we hope. So the China real estate market, it looks like it might start matching some former year levels in the next 2 to 4 weeks if the trend line continues. That would be give or take 3 to 4 months after the peak of their COVID. So with that said, if you look at us here in Washington, we're about a month in. We started really early kind of voluntary shelter in place. Certainly in King County we did. So the way Ben and I are both looking at it, which it's funny, we both came up with our crystal balls separately, and they were almost identical, literally almost identical. So that told me that we were both probably on the right track. And that was that May and June, we are anticipating a 75% loss revenue.
Wow.
Which is really hard to say out loud. And that is a shocking amount of revenue. July and August, we don't know. I don't know if that's 50% off. We kind of both, maybe that's kind of what we have on our projections right now, that May and June are 75% off. July and August, maybe they're 50% off. Maybe September's 25% off. Maybe fourth quarter is kind of somewhat typical fourth quarter again, but it won't make up for much. And then, who knows about 2021? The one thing that can happen is that after the 4th here in Washington, what probably will happen is there's be a temporary spike in activity. We're going to see a bunch of listings hit the market that have been waiting, a bunch of buyers potentially hit the market that have been waiting. The challenge is we have some areas that we service that are heavy hospitality that aren't just going to get their jobs necessarily all back May 5th. It doesn't work that way. We also have Boeing is shut down temporarily. They entered this having problems with, the battery problems. And so to know how quickly the bounce back will occur. In our core markets in like King County, though, it's a pretty solid tech base, and we're still seeing a lot of buyer activity. The slowdown has come from really a chokehold in listing inventory right now, meaning sellers are holding off listing. So even if you have 5 buyers, and there's one property, you can only have 1 sale. So the other 4 buyers kind of in the waiting room waiting, right? So I don't know about a crystal ball. I can tell you that's sort of what we're projecting now. Ask me in a week, I'll give you a different answer. That answer hasn't changed over the last month. All those numbers really, and so far they haven't changed.
Wow. Yeah. So your job is to have a steady prediction of what you believe is going to happen, and day to day, week to week, this is changing. How is that?
I check the stats. I check the data and the stats of our markets 2 to 3 days a week. Yeah.
So how is that for you, being kind of the economist of the company, to look at it? Well, we laugh about different roles that we have, but we wear so many different hats, and whether they're formal or not, it's still important that you're doing that. You're very, very well qualified to do that. But how is that for you, trying to predict where the company needs to go with Ben and other leadership when it's changing day to day and week to week?
I love it. I've been jacked up. I'm in a really great place. I thrive in crisis, and I love helping people. And so when the world is going through a crisis, I feel like I can help more people. That fills my bucket. So actually, I love everything about my role, including the data analysis.
Yep, love it. Yeah. So for those that are watching, whether they're an employee, a business owner, a large business owner, what kind of pivot specific advice can you give others? Maybe mindset, perspective, anything like that you're going through right now, because you do thrive in chaos. How can you help others thrive in chaos that are watching this?
Yeah, I have a couple things. And they're lessons that, I probably kind of knew, but I've really learned over the last month, right? One of them is that getting information thrown at us all day, every day. It is coming from all sources, in real estate, from the Realtor Association, from the MLS, agents, it's coming from agents, it's from brokers, it's coming from MCs, it's team leaders. It's coming from Keller Williams International, coming from other franchise owners. It is just a constant flow of information. And one of the things that I've learned is early on we were getting real estate activity were restricted. It kind of started with our MLS pulling open houses from our feeds, right? And the MLS would send out a big, huge pronouncement. And I felt a tremendous amount of pressure to have to respond to that quickly. Oh, Ben, I have to send an all brokerage email now, right now, right? And I think Ben's done a really good job of having me slow down, wait a couple hours, seek input from multiple sources, not the loudest voice in the room necessarily, not to make someone else's emergency my emergency, chill out for a bit, let information come to me, let other people interpret and translate the information, and then respond. So I've learned to be quick but not reactive, because I think I was going a little whiplashy for a while. I think that I'm a very quick person, and I was just trying to respond and react so quickly that I realize now, with this much input and this much change happening, I'm much calmer, and I build in more white space, more thinking time, and more collaboration time before I jump on something. So instead of 5 minutes, it might be 5 hours. It still isn't 50 hours. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I understand we have to be quick, but I've had a couple talks with my team leaders where I know you guys want out to the brokers. I know you want it now because they're all starting to put phones up. I want to wait. I want to wait and see what the Realtor Association's interpretation of this is. I want to see what our other owners are doing about this. I want to talk to 10 agents and each one of our brokerages and get their take on this, and then we will respond. And in each case, it was the right decision. Those I made the most mistakes or when I responded too quickly. So for anybody watching, no matter what your business is, if you're a business owner or in leadership, we have to walk a little bit of a fine line between being quick but not so reactively quick that we don't build in enough thinking time and consideration time, and that we're not pausing. Does that make sense?
It does. It's like in Shift when Gary talks about being an action-oriented person and being a thinker, or I forgot what the exact words were, but I'm very impulsive, and I'm a quick, like, on-the-spot pivoter, whereas some people may be more of a think, but never do. So you're talking about all of this conversation is about having the right balance of like in leadership, having the right balance of positivity, but also having like the reality. And then it's also about doing, but thinking enough, getting enough input to make a good decision when you do.
Yeah. My last bit of advice, Leo, before we sign off, is just that it kind of goes back to when you were asking me about my crystal ball thing. We need to focus on today. So leaders watching, make decisions and actions based on today. Today is Tuesday. That means I don't make Wednesday decisions. I make Tuesday decisions. If you want a Wednesday decision, ask me Wednesday. We do need to keep our eyes tuned to the future. I just shared with you a projection that goes 6 months out, right? So I'm not saying to completely give that up. What I am saying, Leo, is that I may read all the articles and study all the data. I may have those projections, but I need to focus on today decisions based on what's happening today, Tuesday. And I need to have, make sure that I'm getting buy-in from my people to understand that a Tuesday decision could look different on a Wednesday at the rapidity of how things are changing, right? So that's my last bit of advice to you is, I don't know. I say it to my people all the time, I don't know, that's a Wednesday decision. Today's Tuesday. For Tuesday, our decision is this, and this is what we're going to focus on. And we're going to see what transpires in the next 24 hours, and you can ask me about Wednesday. Here's a good example. Yesterday, entering the day, schools were pretty much going back on campus end of April, most of the schools. By the end of the day, we learned that schools were canceled for the rest of the year for every school in the state. There's information changing every day. So that means there might have been some decisions that I made yesterday morning that would have changed this morning, right? Based on that. And so we just have to be open to that fluidity and just focus on what you can control. Leaders focus on what we can control. We can't control a lot right now, but you can control up here, you can go here, and you can control what you do.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. And Vija, I really, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me on this beach. I wish everyone could be on a beach right now. But yeah, the positivity, but the realistic approach on it is much appreciated. And I think that will resonate with a lot of people. So again, Vija Williams, everybody, thank you so much for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks for watching the Pivot series.
Thank you, Leo.